Let's talk about how stagnant MLB The Show's franchise mode has been. San Diego Studio, unfortunately, has not touched this mode in years. We're going to be pointing out a bunch of flaws and things they need to fix. Where better to start than the setup options, which it doesn't have many of, and this is your only chance to change them, like the universal DH and the extra inning runner rule, which is a problem because we all know the universal DH is coming to Major League Baseball at some point. It's a matter of when, but in franchise, it's now or never. Let's compare this to 2K's setup options. We're comparing the two games quite often, as 2K has built a pretty good franchise mode, and their setup options are far superior. They have the ability to change season length, quarter length, the amount of playoff games per round. How many more people would play MLB The Show's franchise mode if you could change the amount of games per season? I'd imagine quite a few. And the sliders. MLB The Show has some, but not nearly as much and as in-depth as 2K's sliders. Sliders that affect trades and their value, injuries and how severe and how often they happen, contracts and their value, progression, regression, and sim difficulty. MLB The Show needs to adapt the slider system from 2K when it comes to their franchise mode. And the rule changes. There's all kinds of them you can do here in 2K. MLB The Show desperately needs to just take up all these pages from 2K's book and put them in their own. Right now we're making the trade deadline 1 week later in 2K. Can't do anything like that in MLB The Show. And there's even more to it, as these rules can be voted on by the league in the offseason, which makes it feel like a real living, breathing world. Which MLB The Show doesn't have that either. Like I mentioned, you can only change the rules at the start or not at all, and there's not that many options to even choose from. So hopefully they can at least change that in the future. But we're not done. There's so many more things to talk about when it comes to MLB The Show's franchise and lack thereof. Let's talk about RPG elements in franchise mode. In MLB The Show, you are the GM, and you can turn on contracts for the GMs or off, but it doesn't really do anything. They need to add a skill tree for starters. I mean, even Madden has added a skill tree to their franchise mode. And look how easy it is in 2K to just turn them all on or all off, or some of them on and some of them off. Need to keep that because some people don't like RPG elements in their franchise mode, so I want to keep player choice. Now let's talk about relocation and expansion. In MLB The Show, you can relocate kind of. It's called rebranding because it's not truly relocation, which is terrible considering they have this awesome stadium creator, but you really can't do much with it when you just change your team location audio, but it doesn't really feel like you're actually moving the team. So that needs to be expanded upon. I mean, look how easy it is in 2K. You add an expansion team, you can use a pre-build, download a team design, or create your own. For this example, we're going to bring back the Seattle Supersonics, which is cool, right? Everybody wants to see us Seattle Supersonics back. Imagine being able to bring back the Montreal Expos as an expansion team and having the expansion draft with them. That would be awesome, and a lot of people would love to use them. So please bring that back. I mean, look how cool and in-depth this screen is, right? Picking your city, downtown, and suburbs in 2K. Why can this not be brought over to MLB The Show? Can somebody tell me why this can't be brought over? And another thing that goes along with that is conference realignment. If you're going to have the ability to relocate or rebrand, you should have the ability to change teams around and realign them. I mean, think how many teams have changed not only divisions, but changed leagues in baseball, right? Like the Astros moved from the NL to the AL, and plenty of teams throughout history have done that. That was how easy it was in 2K. Just took the Thunder and moved them to the Southwest. Now let's talk about trade approval. Why is CPU trading so bad, first of all? But if it's so bad, why can I not have trade approval? I shouldn't just have to disable all CPU trades. Let me decide what trades should go through or not, right? Like the Blue Jays here trading for a catcher, the Orioles giving up Adley Rutschman. Now the Blue Jays have 4 catchers that are all very similar in overall. It doesn't make any sense to me why they would do this, and why did they give up a young starting pitcher, something they need more of? Doesn't make any sense. And in the Orioles case, they gave up a future stud pitcher, it looks like, in DL Hall, and then their former first-round pick in Adley Rutschman for Kim. Not like Kim's a bad player, but why are they giving up these players for him? Doesn't make any sense. Let me decide whether these trades should go through or not. That should already be in the game, and it's unacceptable that it's not. So please add the feature for trade approval. I mean, look how easy it is to just toggle on or off in 2K. That simple. Please add it. And we're not done with trades. We're going to talk about this trade AI that they supposedly fixed. I mean, we're trading for Mike Trout here. This is June 1st. We're giving up Jonathan Holder, who's not having a terrible year, right? A 2.23 ERA, not a bad whip, but is overall not that good. Owen Cassie, he's an okay prospect at 18, not too bad. And Jason Hayward, who's having a Jason Hayward year, but he's on a bad contract. we're able to give up these 3 players for Mike Trout. How have the trades been fixed? Tell me that. Doesn't look like it to me. It should be impossible to trade for Mike Trout with this trio of players. And then we're not done there. We're going to talk about the ability to have cash in trades and the ability to have more than 3 players, right? That should be a thing. Why can't the Dodgers be buyers at the trade deadline? Well, they're negative a bunch of money. But what if the other team threw in a little bit of money into their deal so they could complete the trade, right? That should be something that should be in there, and especially the ability to have more than 3 players per trade. I don't know why that's not a thing. Let's talk about top prospects and rankings. They need to be expanded upon. Prospects are a huge deal in baseball. Everybody always knows the top couple of prospects. Wander Franco just got called up and he's all over your Diamond Dynasty screen, but in franchise, it doesn't really feel like there's much to it. So you need to have more than just the top 50 list. What about having rankings per team or per position? It would be cool to watch one of your players climb up not only the positional rankings, but through your team rankings. That would just be much better. So they need to expand upon that. Let's talk about scouting. It has been the same for years, much like most of franchise, and it could definitely use some improvements. First off, why don't we have stats for each player in their high school or college season? It would add so much to the characteristic of each player and the world building element of franchise. In 2K, you can see you have a floor, you have a ceiling, a player they might be like, strengths, weaknesses, personality. You also have all their stats, which tells you what kind of player he might be before you even scout him. Gives you grades, attributes, tendencies, a social media page, and tells you all the badges they have. All this should make a great addition to MLB The Show. And speaking of draft classes, you need the ability to upload, download, and edit them. I don't know why this isn't a thing. People will definitely use this if you put it in the game. And look how in depth this one is in 2K. A peak start age, a peak end age, max potential, min potential, bust percentage, boom percentage. There's so much to it. All another great addition. International free agency is a huge part of baseball in the modern game. With more international players than ever making a huge impact, I don't know why it hasn't been implemented in the game and it's been ignored. There's so many international stars that would never be here without international free agency. And yeah, it's just not a thing in MLB The Show, and it should be. I know the ability to have players posted from other leagues might have licensing issues, but you can still have generic players posted. In-season free agency is another issue. It only seems to be Roberto Osuna and a catcher or two that get signed, when in real life you see certain players get dealt between a bunch of teams and released, picked up. It just happens all the time, and it should be a bigger part of MLB The Show's franchise. Off-season free agency. You can only see the top 3 offers, which really isn't enough. You need to be able to see what kind of offers and what other teams might be going for a certain position. Roles also need to be expanded upon. Why is batting first, third, and fourth considered a star, but not batting second? That doesn't make any sense to me why the number 2 hitter is not considered a star player. They also need to add more roles. Why is there not a utility role, right? You have platoon in every day, but just add more roles. Utility could be one of them, and that would be another great addition to franchise. Compared to 2K, right? You can see all the players' offers in the offseason when they get offered free agent contracts, and it just tells you what kind of player some team might be targeting. So maybe you have somebody that could be similar to this guy that you could trade to a team that's looking for that kind of player. Pitching rotation changes. You need to have 4-man or 6-man rotations, openers and followers. In the playoffs, I'm tired of seeing the CPU pitch 5 starters every time. They'll go to their 5th starter in a big game and it makes no sense. And openers and followers, why are they not a thing? The Rays have been doing that for years. Double headers and rainouts. You have rain delays, why don't you have rainouts and double headers? Those are all additions that need to be made. Why are challenges not available in manager mode? When you manage a full game, you can't make a challenge. How much sense does that make that a manager can't challenge? CPUs also can't challenge. Just either have it or don't. It just doesn't make any sense how half done it is. And ejections and suspensions. Suspensions aren't a thing in the game. You have ejections. Why not suspensions, right? I just beaned a guy and got ejected from a game. Should probably get suspended. It's a big part of baseball when players get suspended, especially with all the pitching stuff going on now, players getting suspended. Now let's talk about Shohei Ohtani. He's one of the faces of baseball, and he's terrible in your game. I know he's a tough player to make work right, but he always pitches terrible, and whatever franchise sim you do, always has a terrible ERA, and is just not good. His hitting's alright, but pitching's terrible, and needs to be fixed. Let's talk about awards and history of awards, right? Juan Soto has a couple of awards, and you can't see any of them. You have no idea without looking it up online, which shouldn't be a thing. You should be able to see what kind of awards a player has won in their career. James Harden won MVP, and you can see all of his awards right here on his player card. You see he won it also in 2018 and all of his All-Star appearances and everything about him. Another award issue. If you turn on DH, it just glitches out the Silver Slugger award and keeps it as a pitcher, and it'll just be blank, which makes no sense because look who won the Silver Slugger as a pitcher last year, a DH, in the NL. Now let's talk about pitcher regression. Justin Verlander finishes third in the Cy Young race, and yet he regresses as much as he did? With a 2.94 ERA and a 1.20 whip? That doesn't make any sense to me that he regressed to the point where now computers probably won't even sign him. As a 37-year-old coming off of finishing third in the Cy Young, it doesn't make any sense. Nelson Cruz won MVP. It doesn't just apply to pitchers, it applies to hitters as well. Cruz won MVP, hitting 44 home runs and 145 RBI, but he dropped all the way to a 71 overall. That's like 20 points down from where he started the season. Doesn't make any sense to me why an MVP is falling off that far. I understand he should regress a little because of his age, but not that drastic. Moving on to retirements. Why Albert Pujols retires here? As a Dodger? Why? He played one season with them. He should definitely not be going into the Hall of Fame as a Dodger. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I don't know why that's something that's been going on for years. You also need to expand on the players that do get inducted to the Hall of Fame. It's been the same couple players for the last couple of years. The Hall of Fame voting in this game is worse than it is in real life, which I don't know how that's even possible. Carmelo Anthony spent the last couple of years bouncing around the league before retiring, but then the game will still recognize he played the majority of his career with the Denver Nuggets, and he even got his jersey retired by them. As a couple things MLB The Show does not have, retiring with the proper team or jersey retirements. They also need to add the ability to select where the All-Star game is and have a generic All-Star logo. I'm tired of seeing the same logo for every All-Star game. I mean, we can all agree MLB The Show's franchise needs work and is missing so much. The mode hasn't been touched in years regardless of what they have said, so please SDS improve franchise. Even EA is improving Madden's franchise mode. I want you all to tell me your thoughts down below on the state of franchise mode in MLB The Show. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.